Welcome back. So in this lesson, we're going to see how we do an actual post, which, as you know, post is equivalent to creating a new record. And as we saw in the last lesson, we started to use POSTman as a method or a way to be able to interact with our API in an easier way. And this is going to really shine in this new example, which is setting up an object that we're going to send to the post endpoint on our pets API. So let's check it out. So here we are, our API, pet API, and we're going to add a new method, which is the post method. So what we're going to do is the following. We're going to define a post, the same thing as the self, and then we're going to check if there's no JSON payload on the request, or if the name is not on the request JSON. Then we're going to return a 400 error, which is and we're going to take a look at some of the HTTP codes, but that's kind of like a kind of like an unexpected error. So then if we have those things, then we're gonna basically add an ID to the length of that array, pets array, and increment by 1. And then we're gonna have the name that's been passed on the post to be the name on that pet object. And finally, I'm going to append that object to the array and return that new object, which is kind of like a regular let's say mechanism or philosophy when you create a new record, is that you kind of like throw back to the client the record that you just created, so that the client can confirm that you created the right record. And also we're gonna have as you can see here, a 201, which is another HTTP code that's meant to say this was created and or rather the request was received, and I'm going to I actually created a new record. So we're gonna check the HTTP codes in a bit, but let's just stick with this. So I'm gonna save this, and I have Docker here running in my computer. So I'm gonna go now to POSTman, and we're gonna basically create a new request that is gonna be a post. So here I select post, and as you can see, I selected a new tab in this plus sign. I'm gonna create I'm gonna put the pets here. Oh, and I also forgot, I just noticed when I was checking the recording that this didn't have a trailing space. So as you can see, there's a little red dot in there. That means that this hasn't been saved here in the collection. So you can do Command S, or I think you can do collection. Oh, here, you do save, or you could do Command S. So I'm gonna save this, and now that that endpoint has been saved here in the collection. So perfect. So now I have the post, but as you know, post doesn't send the actual request or the data on the URL like the GET request does. So I'm actually I have a body here that is a kind of like a tab that I can pass to the request. And here I'm gonna send a raw. I'm gonna select raw here. You can select form data. You can select form URL encoded. You can have binary, like if you're uploading images. And here you can select what type of raw data, and I'm going to select JSON here. Now what that does is, now you see it, headers has a new option there. If I click there, I see that it says content type application JSON. So we're sending this on the header. So the client is sending this to the header saying, hey, Mr. API, I'm sending you a request. I have some data in the body, and that content type is application JSON. So that's how you send and tell the API what type of content you're sending, which is part of the RESTful API constraints, as we saw earlier, is that the client informs what type of information it's sending, and also through the verbs, the post here, the get, it's also communicating what your request or what your intentions are when you're posting this. So here I just need to add something like this. I just put a bracket, and then I put name, and then I'm gonna put my hamster's name, Lala. So that's gonna be the request. So when I send this, it's gonna go into the post here, and it's gonna have the name on the request JSON, and then I'm gonna be able to add that to the object and then append to this pets array. So let's go ahead and try that. I'm gonna let me save this, and it's gonna say where I'm gonna save it. I'm gonna say this is post pets endpoint, and then I'm gonna put the selection pets API in the pets folder and save. So now I have the post in there, so you can see. Okay, perfect. So let's try it out. I'm gonna put some lines in here and then send. Perfect. So there's a lot of information here that I want you to look at. So one, I get status 201 created. And as you can see, POSTman has this very nifty library of HTTP codes that says the request has been fulfilled and resulted in a new resource being created. So we have created essentially a new resource. It also tells us how much it took and the size of the response back, which was 204 bytes. And as you can see, here's what the server returned. You can see that ID 4 is now the ID for that Lala, and of course it makes sense because we had up to number 3 here. And additionally, the server responds back with headers, which include information about the content length of the returned information. It also says that it's gonna return back application JSON format. It has a date of the request and also what type of server, which in this case it's a Worksoy Python 3.4. So this is automatically put by Flask, and it's really useful for clients. But in any case, we have successfully created a new record here, and of course this stays in memory. We're not saving this anywhere on a database, but in any case it's still a pretty good idea or concept of what the different endpoints for this API is gonna start looking like.